I mean, the main event was fun. You'd always hope to go really deep. I made day 2. I had a lot of chips at one point, and that's about as far as I made it, and with 0 chips. But I had fun, and I had a shot. Some hands didn't go my way towards the end, but I enjoyed the main event. I wish I could play it every week. A couple memorable hands spring to mind, and they're not actually the most interesting ones. One is kind of a funny hand, and one is a bad beat, which is not usually what I like to share, but they're just the ones that pop into my head. So here we go. In the main event specifically, I try to focus pretty hard on live reads, which is not something I do a lot in the cash games I play or in the higher buy-in, or like smaller field tournaments, I should say. Obviously 10,000 is a high buy-in. But I just find a lot of players give off quite a lot. And I kind of told myself this year, and in past years sometimes, I'm gonna trust my reads and go with them, and if they don't work out, so be it. But I think it's the best way for me to learn. So both of these hands involved me making some physical reads. One was early at 150, 300. I open in the hijack with King Queen offsuit to 800. The player to my direct left in the cutoff 3-bets to 1600, so not much more. He'd been playing kind of tight, pretty erratic post flop, like leading a lot of flops into the opener with kind of no clear rhyme or reason that I was able to determine yet. But he hadn't 3-bet yet, so I was pretty worried I was running into a strong hand, but he's just giving me such good pot odds. Other players fold, I call. Flop is 5 deuce deuce with 2 hearts. I have the queen of hearts. I check, he bets 1600, same as his pre-flop raise, and when the flop came down, I was confident, or at least going with my read, that he didn't like the flop. So to me, that means probably a hand like ace king, ace queen, if I think that he's 3-betting a relatively tight range. And obviously those hands do very well against mine, but I figured that I could bluff to try to win this pot. I think what I should have done is raise, but I decided just to float, getting the great price and thinking that he would check back the turn with ace high and I would bluff the river. So I call. The turn is the 3 of hearts, bringing 3 hearts, bring the low straight, etc. I check, he checks. River's an offsuit 8, so this is playing out exactly as I'd hoped. And I think he has ace high. It looks really obvious that I have something. So I'm just gonna bet 2200 to make him fold ace high. And on the off chance that he had like aces or kings and check back because the turn was a 3rd heart, I didn't want to waste too much money on my bluff. So I bet 2200, and he thought for a little while, and then he called. I was like, oh, well, I tried, and showed him my hand proudly. And then he showed king jack. So it was actually the first, I've been on the other side of this a million times, but it's the first time I've bluffed and been called and had the best hand. So it's very memorable for me because I've been him many, many times. The other hand was late on day 2. I must have had about 150,000 at this point in chips. And I opened an early position with ace-4 of clubs. Blinds were 800, 1600, I believe, or somewhere in that range, if not. I opened under the gun with ace-4 of clubs to around 4,000. Got called by a player in middle position on a somewhat shorter stack, but still plenty of room. And I got the strong read that he had like either pocket pair, like low mid pocket pair, or suited Broadway. The reason that I believe that is because it seemed like he wanted me to think that he was thinking about 3-betting, but I didn't believe that he was thinking about 3-betting, and so that leaves the hands that know they're not 3-betting, which is suited Broadways and pocket pairs that are low. He called, big blind called, and the flop was ace-10-5 with 2 clubs, so huge flop for me. Check. I decided to check. First of all, it's a reasonable check anyways, but second of all, if he has that range, he's just going to fold his pocket pairs and potentially float with his suited Broadways, but I thought it'd be reasonably likely to bluff with him as well. And also people tend to bet in the main event. I didn't know him very well at this point. People tend to bet when check a little too often. So decided to check. He bet around 4,000 or 5,000, let's say 5,000. Big blind folds, I call. And turns a brick, I believe it was an offsuit 7. I check, and he shoves about like a 1.5x pot over bet, so something in the neighborhood of 32, 35,000. I call with, top pair nut flush draw, even though like if he's not drawing, I probably don't have the best hand, but if he is drawing, I have him in bad shape. Turns over a king jack of clubs, which I just have, you know, in very bad shape, and also matches my read. I don't know what this was. I'm like this. Match my pre-flop read, or confirm my pre-flop read. Of course, it's memorable, especially because Queen of Spades on the river for the 3-outer, and I lost a pretty big pot at that point, and from that point it was downhill.